We are live.
All right, Hanrahans, welcome everybody. We may be a late arriving crowd, but anyway, our guest this evening, the great Ray Dittinger.
Oh, Hammer.
And the even greater Bob Angelo. How about it?
There we go.
This is some serious stuff. I don't know how John and I are even up here. So,
Exactly.
We just may hand them the mic and they can take over from here. But anyway, welcome. Thanks everybody for coming out. Questions, comments, you guys usually help out and participate. So continue with that. Jimmy Clark, thank you. All the workers here, bartenders, waitresses, thank you. Raffles, we continue to outdo ourselves every month. We got some cat named DeAndre Swift coming to Carl's Cards on November 6th. Well, we got a Kelly Green jersey up here. Everybody gets 2 free raffle tickets. Dig in your pockets, $1 a piece. The money goes to the CCC Charity Fund. Lots of great stuff. You guys heard of Bryce Harper, right? How about an autograph? How about A.J. Brown? So come on. It's a late arriving crowd, but I'm going to bug you all night long. So this is also a 2-part show. The second part is a book signing. Both these gentlemen have new books out. I'm going to let them talk about it a little bit. I'm done talking. I'm going to hand it over to John. As long as you don't talk about Brian Johnson, I'm fine.
All right, I'm done. No. You also forgot the most important part. You get to meet DeAndre Swift as well.
100%.
You have the autograph ticket there from the event, and you'll get to meet him, get your jersey signed, and
meet and greet at Carl's Cards in Havertown, about 10 minutes up the road. But all you know that already.
Yep.
All these wonderful people know that already.
And you also remember, we're celebrating 5 years anniversary today.
Well, that was the second part of the show.
Okay. I didn't get that memo.
We were going to explain the 5.
Exactly. There you go.
But anyway, Ray's family is here again. Let's welcome them. The 2 grandsons are probably like, what? What? Are they future Ray Dittingers?
God, I hope they raise the bar a little bit above that. They're both very big into sports, as you can see. My one grandson Emmett is here in his Devontae Smith jersey, and my other grandson George is there in his Cub Scout uniform. They're both football players, and obviously very, very excited about what's happening in the Philadelphia sports community right now. Both very excited about the Phillies and very excited about the Eagles.
2 great choices. I love the number 6.
Yes.
Good job. Good job. Well, welcome. Thanks for coming out and supporting Dad.
Yep. So Ray, we are here in Philadelphia, so you are going to have to settle us down here with the Eagles after losing to the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, other than the turnovers, was a priority or a problem on Sunday?
Yeah, the 6 games so far have not played out the way I thought they would. I really thought coming into this season, I thought the offense would be dynamic.
Right.
I mean, because you had, the line was intact. Hurts was coming off a great year. The addition of Swift, I thought, only made you better.
Mm-hmm.
Brown and Smith, I think, are probably as good a pair of receivers as you got in the league, and Goddard's one of the better tight ends. I mean, offensively, I thought they were going to be, if not the number 1 scoring offense in football, right there near the top. And I thought the defense would be a work in progress because you had a lot of new players, you had a new coordinator. I thought at early part of the season, the offense would be scoring points. The defense might be a little slow to come around. It's kind of been the opposite to this point. I think the defense has played better than I thought. and the offense has been less than I thought. So that's kind of, at 5-1, you can't really complain. They're still in pretty good shape.
Oh, we are in Philadelphia.
Well, yeah, that's true. But when you look down the road at the schedule, the teams they have to play
Right.
later on,
Mm-hmm.
including that gauntlet they have to run with Dallas twice, San Francisco, Buffalo,
Starting even Sunday night with
the Bills, and Seattle, and then of course starting Sunday night with Miami. The road is going to get tougher from here, so they're going to have to, if they want to get to the playoffs, I think they will. But if they want to get there with the number 1 seed, the schedule's going to be challenging. They're going to have to play better, certainly better than they've played to this point, and obviously they're going to have to play far, far better than they played on Sunday.
We talked at the shop about it. That's why Carl mentioned, not to mention Brian Johnson, but I don't listen, so I will anyway. But is it a problem? Like we kind of almost joke about it at times, having too much talent that to be able to get the ball to everybody and to just to work everybody into the game.
Right.
I would rather have talent than not.
Well, no, of course, yeah.
No, I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so. It's, we've seen a lot of really great teams that had a lot of great players, and they managed to make it work. I mean, a team that that Bob was closest to was the team of the Pittsburgh Steelers in the '70s. Bob was doing the highlight film for those Steelers teams, and they had Hall of Famers up one side and down the other, both receivers, the quarterback, the running back, and they didn't seem to have a problem. It's just a matter of being professional and working it out. But I don't think it's a big deal. I mean, they've got such good players right there now that from week to week it's going to be different. You're going to have to play according to how the defense plays you. If they're going to overplay A.J. Brown, which I think most teams have done to this point, well, then that's going to create opportunities for Smith. And when Smith gets heavy workload, then you're going to forget Goddard. But then teams will take them away, and then you're going to have to work Goddard. I mean, there's almost no wrong way to turn here. I mean, everywhere you look, you've got playmakers, and you have a quarterback who's a great playmaker in his own right. So I think they have to just work it out. I think the new offensive coordinator kind of has to figure out how to work it out. But as long as they have the offensive line that they've got, and they've got that many dynamic players on offense, I think this team's going to kick it into gear and be a better offensive team the second half of the year than what they've shown so far.
There you go.
Bob, 43 years at NFL Films.
43 plus, yep.
What do you've seen the good and bad, I'm sure, and you've been in the Philly market, so you've seen the really good and the really bad, and the bad some more. What are your thoughts?
I watched Sunday. I watched a game the Eagles should have won, in my estimation. I think the Jets have a very strong defensive team. I don't think their quarterback is ever going to be a multiple-year division champion quarterback. I just don't think he's got it in him. His DNA is not going to get that done. However, he made the plays that he needed to make at the end of the game. Eagles had that game won. I'm still trying to figure out who Jalen was trying to get the ball to on that interception. I just don't get it. My wife said the one that set the big one that set up the short field score. But Lane Johnson's absence was very obvious. That right side just doesn't pass block as well with the right guard now playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers and Lane hurt. Now I think I heard today that Lane's injury wasn't serious. He'll be back. But every injury to an offensive lineman is serious because there's chemistry up there. The kid who's eventually going to become center is out for 2 more weeks, I believe. And, DeMonte Smith, I was happy to hear how he reacted in the locker room when someone asked him about those catches. I mean, he cursed himself out and basically said, you got to catch the effing ball. And, it's simple. The second part of that answer was just make the damn catch. Right. He knows he screwed up because he was wide open and he might still be running had he caught that crossing route over the middle. I like what I'm seeing now from Jalen. RPOs don't work in pro football unless there's a legitimate chance of the QB R'ing. And now he's pulling the ball down and running. He's just not as decisive this year when he pulls it down to run as he was last year. Last year, he was maybe a little reckless as he went, as evidenced by what happened to him in Chicago that day. But he's got to go. He's a big part of the offense. Swift has been a major addition. I love what I see there. The tight end can play. I mean, the tight end on that bubble screen that they run it weekly. He always seems to be able to get the edge and pick up a first down. The Eagles are a real good football team. The defensive team, minus defensive starters in that secondary, quite a few by the end of the game, still played well enough to win the game. Jalen just coughed it up. And that is what I saw of him 2 years ago. That's not what I expect to see this week. Hopefully, that was a blip on the screen. Hopefully, that goes away. I think the future is good for the Eagles. However, the schedule is bad. There are one opponent after another, high caliber NFL teams with depth, with scoring power, with good defenses in some cases. So the Eagles are going to have to play their best game. And of course, this last one was not their best game.
Yeah, the next 7 out of 8 games are tough games.
Yeah.
And that 8th game is Washington, so they played the Eagles pretty tough as well.
And that's the only apparent layup, but I thought the Jets was a layup too, and
Well, yeah, and the divisional games usually aren't layups.
Ray, do you see with this team, was there a possibility of looking beyond Sunday and looking ahead to the Dolphins game?
Well, that's the theory, the old look ahead trap game kind of thing. Could that have been a fact? Maybe in some guys' minds. I just think they just made critical mistakes in critical situations. But they have been to this point. I mean, if you look at it, people would be surprised to know that Sunday's game with Miami is a matchup of the number 1 and number 2 offenses in all of football.
Right.
And people don't, you look at what the Eagles have done to this point, and you'd be surprised to know that the Eagles are number 2 in offense behind only the Dolphins. Now, the difference between 1 and 2 is 100 yards a game. Miami is way here, and the Eagles are number 2, but they're here. But that speaks to the explosiveness of the Miami offense. The Eagles have the difference between them is Miami has been really good in the red zone. They're, in addition to being the number 1 overall offense, they are the number 1 offense in the red zone. When they've been inside the 20, they've been capturing it into major points. The Eagles have not. To this point, they haven't been able to work out the inside the 20 offense to any great degree. The statistic is the Miami field goal kicker has only attempted 7 field goals. Jake Elliott has attempted 18 to this point. So that'll kind of tell you, the Eagles are kicking field goals while the Dolphins are scoring touchdowns. And if that's the case on Sunday, the Eagles are going to have to figure out a way around that because you're not going to beat this Miami Dolphin team by kicking field goals. You're going to have to score touchdowns.
100%.
And Jake Elliott only had 21 field goal attempts last year, I think it was, something like.
Yeah, I mean,
in that range, and so and he's already almost there in 6 games.
Yeah, but the other stat that's a little bit surprising is that both of these teams. It seems like the Eagles have had turnovers, and they had a bunch of them on Sunday. To this point, they've turned it over 9 times, but so has Miami. Miami has probably made more mistakes than you realize. They're very explosive. They make big plays. They get a lot of yards, but they're also fast and loose with the football. And if the Eagles are going to win the game this week, they're going to have to take advantage of that. And over the last 3 games, they have not had a takeaway. And it'll be very hard for them to win this Sunday if they don't take the ball away a couple times.
Yeah, absolutely. And try to keep the Tyreek Hill from taking the lid off the defense.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Or Waddle.
Exactly. Then you get Waddle to worry about as well.
Or that little running back who can fly. Although he's out, the other guy is just as fast. Almost.
Yeah. Mostert, I think they say is the fastest one.
He'll be the X factor there. I mean, he just runs routes that are unheard of.
Yeah,
I'm still trying to figure out how Kansas City let him go.
Yeah.
I mean, that made no sense.
No.
And here's something that I wrote in my blog about this week. Next gen stats are kind of cool. I like when they, on the spot, calculate the speed, the peak speed of a player. And apparently the rookie running back, Achane, am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Devon Achane, however, he bested Tyreek Hill by 2/100ths of a second.
Wow.
And Tyreek took issue with it. He wanted to remind people, oh, no, I'm the cheetah. I'm the fastest player in pro football. And when you've got that kind of friendly competition going on between people who can run that, Usain Bolt type speeds, the Eagles have their hands full this week, especially with the secondary being all banged up the way it is. Even when that secondary is at full strength,
Yeah.
I'm still not sure that they're going to be able to handle them. But they have to look at the template. It's been done before. Buffalo slowed them down. How did Buffalo do it?
Right. Well, plus it's on the road, so they had the advantage being down in Miami with the heat.
Agreed.
So teams come down there and they're not used to that heat.
And they die down there.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever seen an offense with this much speed across the board. I don't know if I've ever seen one. I mean,
I agree with
the comparison that some people make is the Vermeil team, the Vermeil Rams team, Greatest Show on Turf, which was, they were fast. And playing in that dome and on that surface, it made them look even faster. But they weren't as fast as these guys.
No,
I mean, Ricky Kroll was one of your receivers on that team. And Isaac Bruce was fast, but he's not fast like Tyreek Hill. I mean, and certainly Kurt Warner can't run on Tua. So I mean, if you're just talking about the overall speed of an offense, Bob, you were in NFL film for 43 years. You looked at a lot of film. I can't think of an offense I've seen that is as fast as these guys.
Ray, I agree. The very first time I saw Tyreek Hill, I was shooting a game in Kansas City. Doug Peterson was the offensive coordinator, and they threw a quick screen to this little receiver, and he ran out of my frame. He was gone. And I walked over to the bench, and I said, who was that? And they pulled out the flip card and said, his name's Tyreek Hill. He's a rookie. I said, my God, he ran right out of my frame. And that's not allowed to happen when you're a cameraman. And I said, I've got to make a mental note of that guy. Well, now, we all know who he is. And he's challenged Usain Bolt to a sprint and this and that. But let me just remind people, Usain put up his numbers running on tracks. Tyreek runs with a helmet on and football equipment on. So he's an amazing athlete. I agree with you, Ray. This is the fastest team I've ever seen in the NFL. And I've been doing it, for 43 years on the sidelines, watching these guys run by me. But no one ran out of my frame faster than Hill.
So we all agree the Eagles have their hands full on Sunday?
Yeah. A lot of zone coverage, a lot of zone match. They play man, they're going to get toasted. They should stand up at the line of scrimmage, bang people, and then drop into their zones, because don't let these guys get off the ball the way they intend. Otherwise,
they're by you before.
Yeah, their linebackers don't necessarily take good pass drops, either one of them, and they don't react well to guys running crossing routes into man coverage when the other guy's backs are turned to the line of scrimmage. So get out of man, but bang them at the line of scrimmage. Don't let them get clean takeoffs.
Yeah.
Otherwise, long day.
Long day. Hey, Lauren's out there. She's got the microphone. If you guys have any questions, comments for our guests, Ray Didinger, Bob Angelo. A lot of NFL history right here with these two gentlemen. So you guys are, thinking the 80 Eagles, we'll get the answer. We'll get the answer up here. You want to talk last year's Super Bowl? We'll get the answer up here. So feel free to flag Lauren down and get the microphone, and we'll get a Q&A going. But again, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. It's This Fans View try this one more time. This Fans View 5th anniversary. So stick around afterwards. We'll draw the raffles, and we'll have a few beers. Deal?
Here we go.
All right. Hey, again, I'll get to you in a minute there, Mr. Driscoll. I know you got a major league question coming. Don't disappoint. But again, the raffle prizes, if you haven't gotten your 2 free tickets, feel free to come up and see Henry, Emily, I'm not sure how much longer we're going to have them because they're building a house in Florida. So we're gonna lose them eventually. So make nice and hopefully Emily has promised me though she's going to come back from time to time. So
She's making that trip every twice a month.
Everyone's said every lifestyle.
there you go. There you go. Lauren, what do you got? Or I should say, Mr. Driscoll, what do you have?
Greg, I remember you saying that former Butchers at third base outfield. I
Yeah,
just want to know what you do now after watching what he's doing at third base.
yeah.
And Bob, I have a question for you as well. Did you film for Pittsburgh Steelers? Did you film the Immaculate Reception?
No, I actually watched that from my college dorm room. It wasn't a dorm. I lived downtown, but I grew up in Pittsburgh and had to drive from Pittsburgh to State College that Christmas weekend because the game was blacked out on WIIC in Pittsburgh. So I drove to my college apartment, took my next door neighbor who was also a Penn Stater a year behind me, and my left tackle from my high school football team, and we went up, and when Franco caught that ball and scored, my next door neighbor jumped up and down on my roommate's bed and broke the frame. So that was my Immaculate Reception experience. But I remember it like it was yesterday. And, Franco was actually in a class I took. I was a sophomore and he was a senior at Penn State. I forget the name of the class. He was in hotel management and I was in journalism and philosophy, but somehow we connected once. And I got to know him, and we talked about that play over, my career at NFL Films and his with the Steelers. And but no, I was in my college place, and my next door neighbor broke the bed, just jumped up and down on it so hard, and it was metal, it wasn't wood. He broke it, busted, ruined. We propped it up with 3 big State College phone books to try to hide it from my roommate, but that didn't work either.
So the word of the night is frame.
Right.
To answer your first part of the question about Alec Bohm, yeah, I did give he and Reese Hoskins the name last year. I called them the Corner Butchers, which, considering the way they played in the field last year, was probably a little cruel but not inaccurate. However, I give Bohm a lot of credit. I mean, he's obviously really worked his butt off to become. Look, he's never going to be Mike Schmidt. He's never going to be Scott Rowland. But he's made himself into a capable major league third baseman. And last year, I would not have thought that possible. So I got to give him credit for that.
Made a hell of a play last night on his knees.
Yep.
On his knees.
So Ray heard a little chuckle there with the catch from Franco. I'm guessing maybe.
I was actually at the other game. I was at the NFC game that year,
Okay.
which nobody remembers, but it was also a great game. It was Cowboys 49ers.
Oh, I remember that.
Out in San Francisco, and Roger Staubach brought the Cowboys back from the dead in the final 2 minutes, like threw 2 touchdown passes in the last 2.5 minutes to win the game. I was at that game, but we were watching. That was obviously the second game.
It was.
So we were watching Pittsburgh Oakland on a TV in the press box at Candlestick Park, and it was
Great game.
it was pretty amazing. I mean, it was well. I mean, in almost every poll that they made, what's the greatest play in the history of professional football in all the years that the game's been played, and that always comes out as number one. And how could it not? I mean, it was the perfect play with the perfect name.
Yeah.
And it's one that. Franco, I mean, I've seen him ask the question many times, did you really catch that ball? And Franco would never say one way or the other. He just left that mystery out there for everyone else to decide. But it was an amazing finish to that game. And, it's a play that people will talk about forever. I mean, and I can't imagine. And Bob worked with Ernie Ernst, who was the cameraman who got the famous shot, the long lens shot of Franco coming towards the camera and catching the ball and running. Ernie got that shot And when Ernie retired, Bob, you were there, you remember, when Ernie retired after his many years in NFL films, they had a party for him at the Art Museum in Philadelphia to give him a gala send-off. And the highlight of it, which nobody knew, but they had done, was they had that frame, that shot of Franco catching the ball, framed, and they were going to present it to Ernie as a retirement gift. And they brought Franco Harrison from Pittsburgh to present it to him. So that was very cool to have Franco come out on the stage and present Ernie with that photograph.
See, framed is the word of the night.
See?
Yep.
I was on to something.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, let's talk about the books a little bit. I don't, you guys can go 1 and 2, but let's discuss it, a little bit. What's inside the book and what people can look forward to. We're familiar with Ray a whole lot, so let's defer to Bob for his comments.
All righty. It's called The NFL Off Camera. It started out at 101,000 words, and the editor made me take it down to 92,000 words, so I had to take stories out. 92 individual stories, short stories. The longest story in the book is 3 pages long, because my feeling was pro football fans consume their football 3 to 3.5 hours at a time watching their home team. And if you're like me, it's 7.5 hours at a time watching Red Zone and then waiting for Sunday Night Football to start. So I didn't want anything that required a long narrative and starting at page 1 and reading to page end. I wanted short stories. And the one requirement I had for each short story that I wrote was that I had to have a personal experience with the story subject, whether it was a player, a coach, a front office person, a media type, an owner. I had to have an extended personal experience, and that's where I started. My wife has never liked anything that I've written. I've written screenplays, I've written articles. Very rarely has she ever read something and said, that's really good. So as I was writing this, I thought, who would care really about the memoirs of an NFL Films producer? It just sounded pompous. I thought, I wouldn't buy it. But I handed one of the stories to my wife. I think it was the Lyle Alzado story. And she said, you're onto something here. That was pretty good. So I handed her 3 or 4 more, the next 3 or 4 I wrote, and same reaction. And that's when I knew I was onto something. But I had no publisher, I had no agent, I had no experience. So I called Ray. And I called Sal Palantonio. Sal hooked me up with a potential publisher in Chicago, and Ray hooked me up with Temple University Press. It became clear to me that the Chicago guy wasn't returning my calls and just wasn't going to be there. So when I got a call from Temple and they said, let's do this, I said, bingo. And here it is. And I'm happy with it. I'm brand new at all this promotion and publicity stuff. I mean, Ray's been doing this for years, and I'm just flattered. This is wonderful. People want me to sign a book for them? Hell, I'll do that until my hand falls off. I mean, this is just wonderful. But I stand by the stories, and they're truthful, accurate, and some of them are pretty good reading.
It's really a good book. Bob sent it to me, and let me read it over, and I really liked it. And I know that the thing is, Bob worked at NFL Films for 43 years. I worked there for 13. But whenever you traveled as that part of the NFL Films family, you always traveled, you had NFL Films gear on, you'd be in the hotel lobbies with all your NFL Films cases and all your equipment around you, whether it be in a hotel or in an airport or wherever. And people would always come up to you and say, what's it like to be on the field at an NFL game? What's it like to be around the bench? What's it like to be there that close to the action? People want to know that stuff. And Bob's book tells you all that. Bob's book takes you there and tells you what it's like to be on the field at a big game, at a championship game, what it's like to be, and this is what he did so well. His real stock and trade was being a field sound cameraman. So he was always working around the benches with the boom microphone, getting all that natural sound of the coaches coaching and the players talking and all of that stuff that really made NFL Films videos so great over the years. Well, Bob was the guy that got most of that stuff. He was really good at doing that. So there's all of that stuff is in that book. So if you ever wonder what it's like to be an NFL Films cameraman and be part of the action like that, if you've ever wondered that, Bob's book will tell you.
And you were kind enough to write the foreword for the book.
Yes, Bob asked me if I would write the foreword, and I was happy to do it. It was, Bob and I worked together for 13 years in films. We became really good friends and enjoyed working on a number of projects with him and learned a lot. I mean, NFL Films is a fascinating place to work. And if you love football, as Bob and I both do, there's no better place to work because you're immersed in football 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. I mean, it is a total football environment, and it was a great place to work. And I think that's one of the things that comes through in Bob's book is just that feeling of love of doing exactly what you wanted to do. This is the perfect job for him. I mean, Bob, you can tell the story about how you got hired by NFL Films.
Well, I started writing to Steve Sable from my college apartment. It was a name I picked off the credits when I was a senior. And then I went to grad school at Northwestern. And by the time I'd finished grad school, I'd written Steve quite a few letters. In addition, I sent Steve radio scripts that I did for Pro Football Report, which was a show I did at both Penn State and at Northwestern. And then I sent other things, articles that I'd written to Pro Football magazines, work that I'd done for my local paper while I was working at a steel mill in the summer. And he eventually had a pretty deep file of stuff. And when they had an opening, back when they only had 12 people who were writers and editors, producers, directors, this guy decided to leave to open a tiki hut somewhere in the Caribbean. And Steve went through his pile and he said, well, I've got cover letters and resumes from all these people, but I have a file this deep from this guy. And so let's get him in here. And that was June 6th, 1975. And at 1:35 p.m., Ed Sable offered me a job. Not that I remember, but and here it is. Here it is.
You were framed.
It was framed. I enjoyed that framing.
Ray, let's talk about this new book a little bit, because you've always got some great stories, and people enjoy reading.
Yeah, well, One Last Read is a book that originally we did about 10 years ago, I guess. Temple University Press asked me to put together a compilation of my favorite stories from over the years, on all the places that I've worked, all the different things that I've written, be it the Philadelphia Bulletin, where I started, then the Daily News, some of the magazine stuff I wrote. They said, just go through everything you've written in all the years you've been doing this, and pick out your favorite stories, and we'll combine them and put them in one book. So that's what they did. We came out with a book called One Last Read, which came out a number of years ago. And last year, when I retired from full-time broadcasting and writing, they came back to me and they said, "Why don't we want to reissue that book, but we want you to add a final chapter, kind of updating your story, talk about why you retired, what brought you to that decision, and also talk about what's happened in Philadelphia since you retired." I mean, the Phillies went to the World Series and the Eagles went to the Super Bowl, pretty significant events. So talk a little bit about why you decided to retire and what it's been like for you to watch all of this great stuff happen in Philadelphia. So I did. I mean, the book is as it existed a few years ago. I had to update a few things because obviously some things changed over time. I updated some stuff. And then there's a final chapter, which serves as kind of an afterword, where I talk about the last year and why I retired, what brought me to the decision to retire, and how much fun it was for me, like the rest of you, to watch the whole Red October thing happen last year, and to watch the Eagles go to the Super Bowl, and to this time watch it as a fan, as opposed to watch it from the press box, to watch it from the stands with you guys, as opposed to being in the broadcast booth. So that's what One Last Read is. It's a lot of older stuff, but it's it's brought kind of up to date with that last chapter.
Very nice.
Excellent. And both Bob and Ray's books are available tonight. So that's why y'all are here, right? Come out, support the show, support these gentlemen. Ray's been a great friend of both our show, the store over the years. So it's great having him back. And this is our first time with Bob, and feel like we've known each other for a while.
Me too.
At least an hour.
Me too. And that's not like the
Appreciate it.
whose autograph? The two
Oh, Deuce Daly?
Drew Staley.
Oh, did you get that?
Oh, yeah, I got that story
Oh,
in. You know I had to do that.
Oh,
I had to. He loved it.
I actually practiced my signature when I knew I had to do things like this, and I still don't have it right. My cursive stinks. It's really bad. Anyway,
He's jealous.
Ray,
of
you're
yours,
it's like calligraphy. I looked at one of your books.
Yeah, I must admit my penmanship is pretty good.
Right?
I've been,
Don't be shy.
whenever I'm in the middle of a book signing, there's always somebody that will say, "You have beautiful handwriting." And of course, and I suspect a lot of you here can probably relate to this. That's Catholic school, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you went 12 years of Catholic school. One thing that never leaves you is the penmanship. So it'll be on full display here after when I get down to start signing books again.
There we go.
There you go. Hey, we can't lose control of the show. Lauren, I know you want to dig into the Mattis Minute.
All right, so Ray, I'm not sure if we did this with you the last time you were here when I had a series of questions that I asked you kind of rapid fire. I don't remember if we did that last time.
You did. You did.
Okay, all right, well, we've got some new ones, and Bob, we're gonna include you this time. So you just go back and forth for each one of your answers, and Bob, for you, it's just meant to kind of be the first thing that comes to your mind. But if you have a good story about it, please feel free to share that. So the first one, if you were starting a football team tomorrow, who would you choose as head coach, Doug Peterson or Nick Sirianni?
Is this for me or is this for Bob?
Both of you, so whoever wants to go first.
Doug.
Okay,
Doug was a backup under Brett Favre. He learned everything about offensive football from Brett and Andy Reid, and really understands how to put an offense together. He'd have to hire a great coordinator, which he does at every place he goes. But Doug won a Super Bowl, and Nick got a team to a Super Bowl. And until Nick duplicates Doug's feat, Doug has a Lombardi trophy and a ring, and Nick does not. And Doug's offense, to me, always had a clear identity. I'm not quite seeing that yet in Nick's. Possibly the fault is with the offensive coordinator leaving. Now he's got a new system, and but it looks like a smorgasbord offense to me right now. And I want to see them create an identity over the next few weeks and months, because if they don't, they're going to be in trouble in January.
right?
I would take Peterson too, because he has won a Super Bowl. And I think he's a good coach. I mean, in the time I was around him, I was very impressed. He's very organized. I think people underestimate him because he is very self-effacing. He doesn't take himself that seriously. If people in interviews, he will never talk about himself. He will always talk about his players and his assistant coaches. He doesn't shower himself with glory, which I think makes people take him a little bit for granted, which they shouldn't. And you see the job he's doing with Jacksonville. I mean, they're a good team. And I think he's probably going to take them to the postseason. And with that quarterback, he's got a chance to win a Super Bowl with him too. No, I like Sirianni. I don't want people to think I'm saying not. But if you gave me a choice right now, I would take that.
Where's your favorite place to go for a cheesesteak?
My kitchen.
I like it, fair enough.
My favorite place for a cheesesteak is probably John's Roast Pork down in South Philadelphia.
Who has made a bigger impact on the NFL this season? DeAndre Swift or Taylor Swift?
Oh, define impact. I think it's wonderful that Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift have found each other, and Mrs. Kelce seems to be in the middle of it. But I'm going to go with DeAndre Swift. I think DeAndre is a better all-around running back than the Penn State kid who is now in limbo in Carolina, and they're 0-5, and they're on their way to a bad season. Whereas the Eagles, if they get their caca in a container here in the next few weeks, they're going to be okay.
You can't deny the whole Taylor Swift saga. I'll go Taylor. And DeAndre has been a big addition to the Eagles, and I agree. I think he's actually an upgrade from Miles Sanders. So he's helped them. But the Travis Kelce Taylor Swift story, to me, is, I mean, it's funny. I mean, everybody's talking about it. I mean, they're in the paper all the time. They're on the cover of People magazine. And it's accomplished something that sports all trying to do. It's trying to get new people into the town. You know, and there are people out there, a lot of, I don't want this to sound sexist, but there are a lot of women that aren't big football fans, but are big Taylor Swift fans, that are now all of a sudden paying attention to the NFL because of this story. So to me, that's a good thing, and I guarantee the people in the league office will love it.
All right, Bob, just real quick here. With the NFL films, how would you be producing the NFL films with Taylor Swift and Kelsey?
Well, we're not going to dedicate a camera to the two of them sitting up there. But by the two of them, I mean Mama Kelsey and Taylor. And, of course, she comes with an entourage now. But I think we would probably ask permission at some point to do something with her. And I think her tour is suspended right now, right? She's not on. She has some downtime. So I'm sure that NFL Films would have sent out one of their younger producers, not me, to, get together with her and, just examine the phenomenon, which it is. It is a phenomenon, and it's cool. I'm good for Travis,
No, I was just thinking like hearts, like blowing up, like,
Oh, I don't know.
how it would be filmed, like, just like.
Yeah, that's hard in a press box.
Yeah, a little bit, I guess.
That's hard.
You'll get her in the frame.
Have you recently caught yourself humming the song "Just Dancing on My Own"?
I don't know this song.
Okay, all right, the Phillies song, the one that they play when they win at the end.
Oh, I thought it was a Taylor Swift song. No, I'm into Red October though.
Yeah.
I mean, I love baseball. I wanted to be a Major League Baseball player. I didn't give that up until I was 16. So, I mean, NFL Films was a secondary thing for me. It's just that I needed something to do coming out of college. And I figured, well, I know a lot about pro football, but I love baseball. And I love what the Phillies are doing. And last night when they came out and they still had that pitcher in the game, I said to my wife, game over. Game over. And sure enough, and I mean, the LSU, I'm going blank on his name now. Nola. What a gem. What a gem he threw last night. When he's got that big curve working and that two-seam fastball working, he's just unhittable. Unhittable. I mean, he's as good as Wheeler when he's got those two pitches, and last night he had them. And, he took a lot of heat this year. I'm glad to see that he's showing up in the big games.
Who is more likely to win a championship first, the Phillies or the Eagles?
I think the Phillies are winning this one.
There you go. There we go.
I concur, especially if the Astros go down.
Yeah, right now, there's a term in sports where they call that locked in.
Yeah.
Talk about a certain player gets locked in.
Yeah.
And you can see it.
Absolutely.
This team is locked in. I mean, the batting order, the top to bottom, your pitching staff, your bullpen setup. I think they got close last year, and they got a taste of it. And I think they came back this year with the idea of wanting to, we're winning it this year, and ain't nothing going to stop us. So yeah, I think it's going to be the Phils.
And Ray, help me out with some inside information. What is this? Is that what I think it is?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Thank you. Just wanted to make sure because my wife asked me and I said, well, it's got to be.
I wanted to hear Ray.
Watch Major League. With Sirianni. Yes,
Oh, that's where that comes from.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. Oh, I love Major League. Vaseline ball, grounded and short. I love it.
Will Billy White Shoes Johnson ever get into the Football Hall of Fame?
I have tried. I've written some letters and I've talked to some people in the voting body. I would love to see him get in. I honestly think you can make a really good case for him. I'll try. I don't sense much enthusiasm from the other guys. I think he's up against a couple of things. One of them is a predisposition among the Hall of Fame voters to kind of dismiss special teams players. We've got one punter in the Hall of Fame, Ray Guy. I banged on the table for years to finally get a kicker in Jan Stenerud, and he finally did get in. But there's just this resistance to, they're just special teams players. And even though Billy was a very good receiver, I think he's perceived as a special teams guy. And for that, I think it's probably going to be tough for him to overcome. But if you want to talk in terms of impact on the game and his statistics, what he did in his career, coming in as a 16th round draft choice. And when he retired, he was the all-time leading kick returner in pro football. Those are all the points I've tried to make, and I think to qualify Billy, but I think it's going to be a real uphill fight for him.
I agree. Billy's celebration was wonderful. And his impact on Bum Phillips when Bum was a coach, spectacular. Bum was just a simple guy. And that one kick return that he had against Miami, oh, Billy, oh, go, Billy, go, Billy. That's still a classic moment in NFL film sound camera work. I love that. Every time I see it, I stop what I'm doing, just like when Animal House is on. I stop what I'm doing and I watch it to the end. Yeah, great.
Of these three, who is the football commentator you like the most? Tony Romo, Chris Collinsworth, or Troy Aikman?
I'll take Aikman.
Me too.
Has Kyle Schwarber ever called you asking, why the heck am I batting leadoff?
He does extend each at bat, usually, unless he hits a first pitch home run, which he does often, which I love. I love when that happens. That just took the steam out of that kid from Bishop Eustace the other night. Mm-hmm. And my son played with that guy's older brother when my son was a freshman, and they won a state championship. Jay Gallen was a damn good pitcher. So when I found out that his little brother was a Cy Young candidate, I thought, you're kidding me. That little kid with the big glasses, he used to sit here when he was in 6th grade. Well, sure enough, here he was. But when he threw that first pitch, he was used to getting by with throwing a fastball in the zone. I turned to my wife and I said, 1-0. Game over. Right there. And then the third batter, game over. His head turned to jello.
Do you know if there has ever been a discussion about the Eagles possibly playing a game, even a preseason game, at Franklin Field?
I will take that one step further. I tried to get them to play a regular season game at Franklin Field, and it came this close to happening. The year was 2010. It was the 50th anniversary of the 1960 championship. And the Eagles, we knew with the schedule, the opponents had come out. We didn't know when they were going to play them, but we knew who the opponents were going to be. And I saw the schedule, and it said that the Eagles that year were going to play the Green Bay Packers in Philadelphia. So I contacted Joe Banner, who was then the president of the Eagles, and I said, Joe, what you need to do is contact the NFL office and ask them if they can set up the schedule in such a way that you start the season, this 50th anniversary of that championship, with the Eagles playing the Packers, who was the team they played in 1960. I thought it was a great way to kick off that year. Joe did, and sure enough, the NFL responded. And the opening game of the season was Green Bay at Philadelphia. And then I took it one step further. I said, okay, now what you need to do is play that game at Franklin Field to take it back to where that game was actually played. And he said, oh, we can't possibly do that. You're going to have to match up all the seats, and it won't work, and there's no parking. But my argument was, just tell people it's a one-time only, and just sell it as the idea that, hey, this one Sunday, you're going to see what pro football was like in 1960. With no super boxes, and okay, maybe there's not quite enough parking, and okay, maybe for 1 week you won't be tailgating, But you can go there and you can see what pro football was like 50 years ago. And I actually kind of convinced him it was not a bad idea. And then I got a call like 2 weeks later. They met with the people at the University of Pennsylvania. They toured the facility, and he called me back and he said, "We can't do it." And I said, "Why?" He said, "Because there are no restrooms in the upper deck." And I never knew that. As many times as I've been in Franklin Field, we always were in the lower deck.
Okay.
I never knew there were no restrooms in the upper deck.
And imagine what that flow
And he
would have
said
looked
that,
like.
he said that was a deal breaker, so.
Imagine what that flow would have looked like coming down the seats.
I know.
Oh, my God.
But it actually, if they had had adequate, even halfway adequate restrooms upstairs, I think they actually would have played that game in Franklin Field.
Wow, that would have been awesome.
That would have been great, Ray.
All right, and the last one. In honor of Halloween coming up, which one would you choose? Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, M&Ms, or Gummy Bears?
Reese's.
Or you can pick your own if you don't like those choices.
Yeah. I would, no, I'm a plain M&M's guy, not peanut M&M's, but
Right.
plain M&M's.
If I had my druthers, it's almond joy.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
There you go.
Coconut.
Good job. Thank you, Bill Mattis, great job. We need to push his show on a little bit because I think we could go 2 hours, but that can't happen. How about some quick trivia? You guys ready for a little trivia? Yes, no?
Yes. Here we go.
Scrap the trivia? We're not scrapping, and we're not scrapping the trivia.
No, we're
are
not
we?
scrapping.
No, we got prizes to give away.
Absolutely.
Johnny, fire away.
All right.
Are you ready?
You got the mic?
Oh, I'm ready.
All right. So Ray went to St. James High School. What was their nickname?
Lee, yep, there we go. She's got that answer. She's in lockdown.
The Bulldogs.
There you go.
Actually, we were the Fighting Bulldogs,
Oh, there you go.
but I would accept Bulldogs.
In the politically correct world, right? It's just the Bulldogs now, right?
Right.
All right. How many Super Bowls did Bob do as a cameraman working in the NFL? He retired in 2018.
Bob, you got the answer?
Yep.
Don't tell us.
Yep.
You got it?
Yep.
All right.
Remember, it was 43 years he worked for the NFL.
This may go on for a while.
39.
So
That was
close.
close.
So close.
So close.
40.
40 is
it is.
correct. There you go.
And Bob's last Super Bowl, his last assignment for NFL Films, just happened to be Super Bowl 52.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Eagles sideline. And I have a quick story for that.
I was just going to ask you about that too. I heard you talking
Quick
about
story.
it.
Someone sent me a frame capture from the telecast, and I've got it on my phone. If anybody wants to see it, I'll pull it out later. But it's me standing with just dumbfounded, standing behind Doug, from me to that desk behind him, and my sound man on the other side of Doug. And somebody had just walked into the frame and said, "How about a Philly Philly?" And Doug said, "Yep, let's run it. Let's run it." Now, when I saw the play, and my sound man said to me, "What do you think this is going to be?" And I said, "I bet you Belichick's never seen it." That's all I said, because, Belichick is known for putting cameras in places to see things that he's not supposed to see. Yeah, he's a cheater. But anyway, they ran the play, and of course, Nick was uncovered. And later I learned the whole story from Sal's book. Apparently they rehearsed the play in a hotel ballroom, and they made sure the doors were sealed, and they literally checked the ceilings for cameras and things. Because that Belichick reviewed 2 years of Doug Peterson's red zone plays, and then he probably went back to Kansas City to see what the Chiefs were running. So he knew the tendencies, and boy, he'd never seen that play, had he? And that was an example. That told me Doug Peterson is not here just to put on a good show. He's here to win the damn game.
Right.
And that's what I liked. Because you don't go up against Bill Belichick and go halfway. You've got to beat that guy.
He
You gotta beat his
Belichick
team.
that day.
He did.
Yeah, that was that play right there.
He
You
did.
check.
Johnny, you got another one?
All right. Bob directed the first 2 years of what NFL popular show?
Anybody want a hint? They were Super Bowl champions the year after this show premiered. No, I'm sorry. They were Super Bowl champions, and then the show premiered the following
right.
season. Ooh,
I heard it.
I heard Hard Knocks it
There you
is.
go. Good job. Good job. There we go.
That show came from a Hollywood producer named Marty Callner. It was 2001. The idea went through Steve Sable from NFL Films and Ross Greenberg from HBO Sports. And Steve took one look at Marty Callner and said, I don't want him anywhere near a pro football field. So called me into his office and said, we got a show for you this summer. It's called Hard Knocks. Develop it any way you want. And that was the Ravens. And it's still on.
Yeah.
Very cool.
All right, I'm gonna get this question off my chest. Cunningham or Hurts?
As
Quarterback.
Hurts because there are actually two Cunninghams.
Right.
You know, there's the Cunningham that played for the Eagles, and then there's the Cunningham that played for the Vikings. Two different players. One guy was a great highlight film. The other guy was a great quarterback. But I would tell you that I would take Hurts because he doesn't have all of the amazing skills that Cunningham had. Cunningham might have been one of the most gifted, maybe the most gifted football player I ever saw. But he didn't have, especially in his Philadelphia years, he didn't have the focus, and he didn't have the grasp of the total mental part of the game the way this kid does. You know, as a pure athlete, Randall was probably better. But if you're looking for a quarterback that you think can take you and win you a world championship, I would probably take Hurts.
Hurts, although if the Vikings stay healthy that year, and if
Damn kicker kicks the field goal.
25 years I covered the Vikings. If Robert Smith doesn't run out of bounds on that third down,
That too.
if Anderson doesn't miss that field goal, and if that safety doesn't drop that interception, Griffith, the Vikings win. And Randall plays in the Super Bowl.
Right.
But Randall had Randy Moss on that team.
Yeah.
And when Randy Moss was running a go route downfield and into double coverage, it was advantage Vikings because Randy could out jump everybody. And a lot of times Cunningham would just toss it up and Randy would go up and get it. And, when you've got a guy who can beat double teams on a regular basis, it's so, Hurts has to learn not to do that because his guys aren't going to be able to do that.
I think we got one more question from the crowd.
We do, yeah.
Thank you very much. I wanted to thank both of you for coming out to the show tonight. These two guys are some of the best and nicest guys in sports. Really, they're one of the best. One thing with Ray Dinger, we really missed listening to him on WIP on the weekend with Glenn McNeil. I mean, it was part of my week and I enjoyed it. So thank you for doing that, Ray.
Thanks, Sean.
But Ray, I know you're retired, so I have one question I wanted to ask you. The Folsom Fire Company is looking for somebody to drive the fire engine. Are you interested?
I don't think you want to be driving the new Hook and Ladder show. No. I'll come out to your fundraisers. I'll go to your beef and beers, but you don't want me behind the wheel of your fire engine. I don't think.
You'll take a picture behind the wheel, but not driving.
I'll post the picture. That's about as far as it'll go.
All right, again, want to thank everybody for coming out tonight.
We have one final question.
Oh, excuse me. Did you qualify the question? Because this is where it could get ugly.
Okay, I know I get criticized for asking this question, but I'll ask it anyway. You both picked Doug Peterson to be the better coach.
No, the question was, if you want to start a team, who would you pick?
All right, so you both picked Doug Peterson. So tell me why after he won a Super Bowl with the Eagles, why did they get rid of him?
You want to go first?
We save it for the last.
There was, I mean, I could, that story, we could talk for an hour about that. But it turned into there was an internal struggle within the organization that Doug had a falling out with ownership. And he felt like they came to him. I'll give you Cliff's Notes version of it, okay? The year before, they had come to him and they wanted to fire, Jeffrey and Howie wanted to fire 2 of his assistant coaches. And Doug said, no, I'm not firing those guys. And he had a press conference that day, and the question came up, are you going to make any changes on your coaching staff? And he said, no, I'm not planning on it. They said, well, Mike Rowe, and no, they're going to be here. They called Doug in and told him, no, you're firing them. So 2 days later, Doug had to come out and tell the same reporters that those 2 guys are now being fired, after he just told them there were going to be no changes. Doug swallowed hard, hated doing it, hated the firing, hated the embarrassment, but he did it because they told him to do it. A year later, did the same thing. They told him, we want you to change this guy and this guy on the coaching staff. And this time, Doug said, no, I'm not. And was the split. They said, well, look, we think you need to change. And he said, well, I'm not going to change. And then it just developed into a situation where I don't think he trusted them, and they felt that he was insubordinate. And it was just sort of said, you know what, maybe we should go our separate ways. And that was how it ended. It came down to who has the real power in the organization. And Doug's feeling was, after having won a Super Bowl and coaching his butt off that year to bring that team through and to overcome the loss of Wentz and to win with Nick Foles, beat the Patriots at the Super Bowl, I think Doug felt like, if I want these guys coaching, I think I should have the right to pick my own coaches. And when the organization told him, no, we'll make that decision, Doug said, you know what, I don't think I want to coach you anymore. I really think that's what it came down to. It came down to that. It didn't all come out in a public way, but that's really kind of what it amounted to.
I can't add anything to that. I mean, Doug won a game against Tom Brady, and if you would have told me after the game or before the game that Tom is going to throw for 502 yards and the Eagles are going to beat him, I'd have said, you're nuts. Well, guess what? He won a Super Bowl here, and that's the only one, right? That's the only one. I mean, Dick took them to one, and that wasn't going to happen, and Nick took them to one, and that almost happened. So I think that gives somebody some capital to spend. And if ownership is going to treat an owner or a coach that way, it's going to be hard keeping coaches.
Yeah.
It'll be hard keeping coaches here. Good ones.
All right, I feel like, we just had to go into hell fast. What happened to Doug? Anyway, see, I knew.
That's what I thought she was gonna ask. I thought she was gonna ask that.
All right, where's security?
No, one thing on that general topic, just to bring us to a conclusion, to give Jeff his due, he's been the owner of this team now longer than anybody. And you look at his coaching decisions, you can't really say he's ever made a mistake. You can't really say he's ever really made a mistake. He hired Ray Rhodes when nobody really knew who Ray was. And Ray was coach of the year his first year and took the team to the playoffs 2 years in a row. And then after Ray, he hired Andy when nobody knew who Andy was. And Andy coached here for 14 years, won more games than any coach, took you to 5 championship games and a Super Bowl. Did a great job. You know, the Chip Kelly thing, they brought him in, it ended in less than 3 years. But don't forget, that first year, he won the division. And took it and had 2 double-digit win seasons before he went like that. Then, you know, Doug, who again, complete unknown, unpopular hire. When they hired him, everybody said, what in the world are you hiring Doug Peterson for? He won you a Super Bowl. You let him go, and you hire Nick Sirianni, who was a totally obscure assistant coach, and he comes in here and takes you to the Super Bowl. So, I mean, Jeffrey's made that many head coaching decisions, and there's not a whiff in the bunch. So you got to give him credit for that. And not one of them was an easy call. None of them had ever been a head coach in the NFL before. Most of them were really unknown. A lot of them were unpopular when the decision was made, and yet each one of them was successful. So, you know, give Jeffrey credit for that. He seems to have an ability to pick a coach.
Yeah. And my answer, Nick Sirianni over Doug Peterson, I had to think about that because I don't think Nick's done yet. His resume isn't complete. He's got a really good roster. And he's got 2 new coordinators. I know I'm not supposed to say the coordinator word here tonight, but he's got 2 new coordinators, and that makes a difference. It makes a difference. There's a learning curve for quarterbacks, and quarterbacks don't like to change coordinators every year. That's not how programs develop. That's not how offenses create identities that endure for a generation, for 6 or 8 or 10 years. And I'm thinking Hurts is going to be here a while because he's got the skill set and he's obviously a leader. You just can't throw those dumb A interceptions like he did in the 4th quarter when that game could have and should have been won.
Sure.
All right. How about a big hand for these 2 guys? What do you say? Again, I want to thank Hanrahan and the staff here for allowing us every month to come back. We haven't set a date for next month yet, but we're working on a couple different things. So again, thank you for following us. This fame to you. 5 years running. Not an easy task for what we do. But these 2 gentlemen right here giving us the opportunity, along with many of our guests that we've had over those years. So thank you. Thank you to all of you for coming out and supporting past, present, and future. We'll be back here again next month. Take care of your servers, your bartenders. Thank you, Jimmy Clark. Yes. Thank you to the Clark family. We appreciate this opportunity. The raffles, there's some great pieces up here. Somebody's going home with them. Get your free tickets. You can buy as many as you like at $1 a piece. We're going to, after we take a couple photos, we're going to start a book signing. So come on up, meet these 2 gentlemen, grab a book, and let's have some fun. Again, Ray, Bob, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
pleasure. Thank you so much. My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Larry, I'll see you,
Oh, you and I will